For thousands of years, Britain lived by a rhythm older than memory. Work followed daylight. Food came from fields, cloth came from hands, power came from muscle, wind, and water. A worker in 1700 lived in a world that would have felt familiar to his ancestors. Slow, local, limited. But in the middle of the 1700s, that rhythm began to break, not in France, not in Spain, in Britain. And the reason was not one single invention. It was a chain of money, fuel, machines, and people. Britain was already a trading nation. Its ships crossed the oceans. Its ports moved goods in and out every day. Its merchants made fortunes from global trade. But Britain had something else. Coal, a deep, dark fuel buried under its ground. It was not clean, but it was powerful, and it was cheap. In Britain, hiring workers cost a lot, but burning coal cost far less. So the question became simple. Why pay many hands if a machine could do the work? That pressure created the first wave of invention, and it began with cloth. Before factories, there was a quieter system. In villages across places like Lancashire and Yorkshire, families worked from home. Women spun thread, men wove cloth, children helped where they could. Merchants supplied raw material, then collected the finished cloth. This was steady life, but demand for textiles kept rising. Britain wanted cotton, and Britain wanted it cheaper. Then, in 1733, a small change struck the first match. John Kay built the flying shuttle. Weaving sped up, cloth output jumped, but that created a new problem. Weavers were now faster than spinners. There was not enough thread. The whole system began to strain, so invention moved to the spinning side. In the 1760s, James Hargreaves built the spinning jenny. One person could spin multiple threads. Thread production surged, but the jenny was still small. It still belonged to the cottage world. The real shift came when spinning outgrew the home. In 1769, Richard Arkwright developed the water frame. This machine was larger, too large for a kitchen corner. It needed water power. It needed a building. Arkwright built mills beside fast rivers. Production moved into one place, under one roof, with one schedule. This was the factory system taking form. Then in 1779, Samuel Crompton combined older designs into the spinning mule. It made thread stronger and finer. The quality improved, the speed increased, and cotton cloth became something Britain could produce at scale. That is when the skyline began to change. Brick mills rose beside rivers, tall chimneys appeared, smoke became part of the horizon. A new world was building itself out of cloth and coal, and one city became the symbol of it. Manchester, a place that grew from modest streets into a machine-powered giant. But textiles were only the first engine of change, because the mills needed fuel and the nation's hunger for coal exploded. Demand rose faster than supply. The surface seams were stripped away. The easy coal was gone, and miners had learned something important. The deeper they dug, the thicker the seams became, richer, more abundant, but deeper mines flooded, water poured in, and every foot downward increased the problem. The reward was greater, but so was the danger. To solve it, Britain turned to steam. In 1712, Thomas Newcomen created an early steam engine. It was not elegant, it was not efficient, but it did one job: it pumped water out of mines. That mattered because it allowed mines to go deeper, which meant more coal, and more coal meant more power for everything else. Later, in the 1770s, James Watt improved the design. He found a major waste. Heat was being lost every cycle. His solution made the engine far more efficient. Watt did not work alone. He partnered with Matthew Boulton, a skilled businessman and manufacturer. Together, they built engines that spread across Britain, and the steam engine changed the logic of industry. A water mill had to sit beside a river. A steam-powered mill could sit almost anywhere. If coal could reach it, power could reach it. Steam cut the final tie to nature. Wind did not matter. Rain did not matter. A factory could run whenever the owner wanted. Day, night, all year. This is when the old rhythm truly began to die, and when the machine rhythm took its place. As steam spread, iron followed, because machines needed metal, railways needed metal, tools needed metal. For centuries, iron had been limited by forests. Charcoal required wood, and wood was finite. But Britain had coal, and coal could be transformed into coke, a hotter, stronger fuel. Earlier in the 1700s, Abraham Darby helped prove coke could be used to smelt iron. Furnaces grew larger, iron became cheaper, production expanded, and in 1779, Britain built something that looked like the future, the Iron Bridge. It was a message. Iron had arrived. With coal, steam, and iron working together, Britain gained a kind of power the world had never seen. But power creates movement, and Britain's old roads could not handle what was coming. Before railways, Britain turned to canals. One project became famous, the Bridgewater Canal. Opened in 1761, it moved coal more cheaply into Manchester, and when transport got cheaper, coal got cheaper. Industry grew faster, canals spread, waterways linked mines to mills, ports to cities. But canals were still slow. The next leap would come on iron rails. Early locomotives appeared in the early 1800s. But the true breakthrough was not only building an engine, it was building a system. Rails, stations, schedules, investment. In 1830, the Liverpool and Manchester Railway opened. This mattered for one reason. It connected a major port to a major industrial city. Now raw materials could move in faster, and finished goods could move out faster. Time shrank, distance shrank. Britain began to feel smaller, and the speed of life increased again. Steam was now pulling the nation forward. But the greatest change was not in machines, it was in people, because people moved too. Britain's countryside began to empty into cities. Some were pushed out, land changed hands, old rural work became less stable, others were pulled in. Factories offered wages, regular pay, a chance, at least in theory, to survive. So cities grew fast, too fast. Housing could not keep up. Streets became crowded. Rooms became packed. Waste piled up. Clean water was not guaranteed. Disease spread easily. Cholera became a terror in the new industrial towns. And the cost of growth became visible in the most brutal numbers. In the worst districts, life expectancy fell sharply. Many children did not survive their early years. This was the shadow under the smoke, the part people did not put on posters, the part no one advertised. But it was real, and it was happening at the same time Britain was becoming richer than ever. But something else was happening, something quieter and larger. Britain was multiplying. In 1700, the population of England and Wales stood at roughly 5 million. By 1800, it had nearly doubled. By 1850, it had doubled again. In little more than a century, the nation had exploded in size. More food from improved farming, fewer famines, slightly better survival rates, and industrial wages drawing families toward towns. Cities swelled. Manchester grew from a modest market town into a vast industrial city in a single lifetime. Liverpool surged, Birmingham expanded, streets stretched outward, but infrastructure did not keep pace. Air thickened, coal smoke hung low over rooftops, soot-coated windows, clothes darkened on washing lines, rivers changed color, waste from mills poured into water once used for drinking. In some districts, the air burned the lungs. In others, Water carried disease. Cholera outbreaks in the 1830s and 1840s killed thousands. Life expectancy in industrial areas could fall below 40. In the poorest districts, even lower. Growth brought wealth, but it also brought pressure. More mouths to feed, more bodies to house, more smoke in the sky. Britain was not only building factories, it was building density. And density magnified everything, opportunity and suffering. This was the hidden engine beneath the machines. Population itself, fueling expansion and straining the nation at the same time. But over time, the public began to see what was happening. Reports described the hours, the injuries, the exhaustion, pressure built, and Britain began to change its laws. In 1833, the Factory Act placed limits on child labor in textile mills. It did not end it overnight, but it marked a turning point. The state had stepped into the factory. Then, in 1842, another law targeted mines. Women and young children were banned from working underground. These reforms came from a mix of forces: public outrage, medical concern, religious campaigns, and political figures who pushed for change. The system did not become humane overnight, but the direction had shifted slowly and at great cost, because even as laws improved, the engine of industry kept turning. And for decades, Britain led the world. Coal, iron, textiles, steam engines, railways. The output was enormous. British goods reached global markets. British factories became models, others tried to copy. Britain became known as the workshop of the world. But this victory came with a trade. Convenience for many, hardship for millions. Speed in exchange for smoke, growth in exchange for crowded streets. A new middle class rose alongside deep poverty. The country was transforming from the inside out, and once the transformation began, it became impossible to reverse, because the Industrial Revolution was not just a set of machines. It was a new way of living, a new way of working, a new way of measuring time. It replaced seasons with schedules. It replaced human pace with machine pace. It pulled Britain into the modern age by force, and the world followed. Because when a nation learns how to turn coal into power and power into production, it changes what is possible. The old rhythm did not vanish in a single year, but it never returned. And once Britain heard the sound of steam, there was no turning back. This video took weeks of research, writing, and rebuilding history frame by frame. If you felt the weight of that story, take a second to support it. Like the video, subscribe for what comes next, and tell me in the comments what moment in history should we bring to life next.